Much of Central Australia was opened up by the humble camel. The ships of the desert were ideally suited to the dry, arid regions of Australia. Explorers, pioneers and prospectors used camels for transport to traverse the harsh countryside of the Great Outback. Frontier camel tours at Alice Springs offers a chance to get a feel of what it might have been like to explore Australia on the back of a camel. The short expedition takes us along the dry bed of the Todd River, and after an hour on the camels, I'm glad we're exploring Australia in a four-wheel drive.
Do you always lead?
Yeah, pretty much.
In 1900, prospectors on camels discovered traces of gold in the remote Tanami Desert northwest of Alice Springs. The tracks they put in later become known as the Tanami Track. The Tanami Track is steeped in history and it still passes through remote country. Today it's now used by adventure travellers as a shortcut from the centre to the northwest. So why don't you join us as we travel along and beyond the Tanami Track.
We travel through an ancient land, see amazing wildlife, drive underground into a gold mine, visit historic places, meet the boss of Rabbit Flat, stand on the rim of a giant meteorite crater, explore the fascinating Bungle Bungles, be awestruck by the size and beauty of Lake Argyle, and walk into a lost world at Keep River National Park. In December 1907, the first vehicle drove into Alice Springs. It was a 1907 Talbot, and it wasn't long before the automobile took over from the camel as a preferred mode of transport. We're in Dave Simpson's 1910 T-model Ford. This is the sort of vehicle that would have gone up the Tanami in the 20s and the 30s. Would have been a bumpy ride up the Tanami then. Today it's the four-wheel drive recreation vehicles that take the modern-day explorers into the remote areas of the centre. Before we head off along the Tanami Track, we've stocked up on provisions and are making a stop at the award-winning Alice Springs Desert Park, where we can view a variety of desert flora and wildlife in natural surroundings. They've even got a walk-in bird aviary here at the desert park. You can get really close to some of the desert birds. It's great. A visit here is a great start to our Tanami journey, as it gives us an idea of the variety of bird and animal life that lives in the Tanami Desert and surrounding areas. The main exhibit we've come here to see is the amazing nocturnal house. Here we come face to face with the hidden animals of the Tanami, the creatures of the night that are very rare and almost impossible to see in the wild. This western desert quoll is an endangered species and was last sighted in the desert 40 years ago. The Alice Springs Desert Park holds more than 100 arid zone animal species, including 11 threatened and endangered species, some of which are on display in this specially lit desert setting. With seldom heard names like Malla, Mulgara and Dunnett, it's a real eye-opener. One of the nocturnal house favourites is the greater bilby. A cute-looking marsupial that was once found over 70% of Australia. It's now on the endangered list and survives only in small areas including parts of the Tanami Desert. The bilby is a powerful digger and lives in burrows up to 2 metres deep. They only come out at night to search for food, which includes termites and insects. The Tanami Road, or Track as it's better known, starts 20 kilometres north of Alice Springs and heads northwest, traversing the Tanami Desert. The road is sealed for the first 120 kilometres, and skirts the McDonald Ranges to the south. This is cattle country. Once known as Tragedy Track, the old track claimed a number of lives as unprepared prospectors set out from the Alice to make their fortunes in the goldfields of the Tanami. The Tanami Track still traverses some rugged and unforgiving country, so make sure your vehicle's in tip-top condition and always carry water, food and spares if you intend to tackle this journey. Wild camels beside the track are descendants of the camels that were set loose by early explorers and Afghan traders that passed this way. It's been estimated that the arid zone is home to over 30,000 wild camels. A colourful reminder of the not too distant past. "20 kilometres south of the Tanami Track at Tilmouth Well, you come across Lake Lewis. It's a huge salt lake. This part of it here is full of water, but over to the northwest there, it's dry salt pans as far as you can see. Lack of water made it difficult for the early pioneers and explorers to penetrate this area. Imagine their disappointment when arriving at a lake like this to find it's all salt. Everywhere we look we see signs of camels. There's tracks here through the salt. Today Lake Lewis offers some awesome arid country scenery. Tilmouth Well Roadhouse is worth a stop. It's the last place to fuel up until Rabbit Flat, which is another 380 kilometres up the track. The oasis of Tilmouth Well is a welcome stopover before we continue on to the Granites Gold Mine. Well, the Tanami Track so far has not been too bad. The first part's been sealed. Then when we hit the gravel, we've varied from corrugations to quite good. At the moment it's not too bad. And here is the reason. 2 road graders working their way along the track. The track is graded on a regular basis, but it soon deteriorates with numerous 4-wheel drives, road trains and trucks using the track that links the centre to the Kimberley region. About 140 kilometres from Tilmouth Well is a rocky outcrop that Tanami travellers have dubbed the Mini Devil's Marbles. They are prominent because the country we've been travelling through is flat and featureless. It's worth a stop. Termite mounds are a feature of the Tanami Desert, and this area boasts some of the biggest along the track. The termites that live in these dry mud castles harvest and eat desert grasses, returning the nutrients back into the environment. This is one big termite nest. Look at the size of it. This huge mound looks like it's covered in drizzled chocolate, but it's really made of soil and termite excreta. In this amazing structure there'll be millions upon millions of termites living. Somewhere right down in the bottom you'd find the queen. Termites also contribute to the arid zone food chain as a food source for desert lizards. The thorny devil is just one lizard that loves a feed of termites. And this desert dweller eats the lizards that eat the termites. It's all part of the food chain in the Tanami. This is a wommer. It's also known as a sand python. It pays to steer clear of most snakes, but pythons are non-venomous and we're too big for it to eat, so it's not really a threat to us. Because the wommer has a narrow, un-python-like head, it's often mistaken for a brown snake, which is very dangerous. The Granites Gold Mine is about 530 kilometres up the Tanami Track. From the road we can see some ruins of the old mine workings. These days you need permission to visit the old mine site as it's on a new gold mining lease. Just nearby we find a lonely grave of a young white stockman who is believed to have died of thirst in 1955. He was only 30 years old. Tragedy Track in its early days claimed a number of prospectors. 10 men died between 1909 and 1910 from thirst, beriberi and exhaustion. The ghostly remains of the Granites Gold Mine stand today as a reminder of the hardships endured to find the precious yellow metal. In 1932, this was called the world's loneliest field. Gold was discovered here in 1900, with a minimal amount of prospecting carried out until the Depression years. The Chapman Syndicate bought leases at the Granites in September 1932. News of a rich goldfield hit the city newspapers, creating a rush, bringing around 200 men to the field. Shares were issued at 10 shillings and quickly rose to £85. Within 10 weeks they were offered as low as 5 pence each, and the field was almost deserted. The rush had been created by overzealous media reports.
Is the swimming pool down there?
Charles Chapman and his family continued to mine here for another 20 years, earning a good living. This is all that remains of Chapman's house. He was the mine manager. Now it's just derelict. From here you can actually see the new mine. In 1986, production commenced again at the Granites Gold Mine, using modern open cut mining. The Granites Gold Mine is now operated by Normandy NFM Limited, a subsidiary of Normandy Mining Limited, one of Australia's leading stock exchange listed resource companies. We have special permission to film the mine operations, and our guide is Joe Ranford, drill and blast engineer.
This is a core sample from the diamond drill rigs. They drill down from surface or underground or wherever to access the ore body, and from this they get an idea what the ore body is doing, how much gold is in there. They map it out, and from that we can get a picture of where the ore body is sitting. Then the engineers can go down and mine it out. The engineers are the good guys. Callie Open Cut. It's 800 metres long, 600 metres wide, and about 215 metres deep. At the moment we've finished mining the open cut, and we'll be using this as a primary access to our underground operation. Right. Puts up there. Too tight now.
The reason we're dressed up like we're going on a moonwalk is we're going underground down in the underground part of the mine. All we need now is the safety goggles. Let's go. This huge crater in the desert has already yielded a large quantity of the elusive Granites gold. And now the mining operation is going even deeper with underground mining techniques with estimates of good gold-bearing resources. From the bottom of the Callie Open Cut pit, it feels like we're looking up at a mountain range. It's now time to enter the portal at the base of this man-made crater. We're now going down into the mine. Down the bottom it's about 500 metres deep. A lot of tunnels everywhere. I just hope that Joe knows where we're going. A bit like a labyrinth of tunnels down here. We're halfway down, didn't we?
Yeah, we're right here. Got a truck up here waiting.
What happens now?
We have to squeeze over to let the huge truck past with its load of gold-bearing ore. At the moment we're about 300 metres underground. It's just like going into the centre of the earth in a vehicle. I feel like we're ants inside an enormous underground ant's nest. And here we come across a machine like a giant insect, drilling the bedrock to extract the riches from under the Tanami Desert. Deeper and deeper we go until the tunnel ends. Joe is the engineer who determines how the drilling operations are carried out with safety and efficiency. At the end of the tunnel, another hard rock drill is at work, drilling holes to place explosives that will blow apart the solid rock. It then can be loaded onto huge trucks that carry 150 tonnes of gold-bearing rock. It's a long, slow haul back up the tunnel with a fully loaded ore truck. The trucks emerge from the exit tunnel and the ore is stockpiled before it's loaded onto the biggest and heaviest road trains in the world. These massive road trains, when fully loaded, have an all-up weight of 260 tonnes. Each road train makes 12 trips every 24 hours. Over 1 million tonnes of ore per year are trucked along the company's private sealed road to the crusher and treatment plant 40 kilometres from the mine. Here the precious yellow metal is extracted, proving that the old prospectors were right. There is gold in those granite hills, and we finally get to see a raw piece of gold as it was found in the hard rock of the Granites Gold Mine.
So that piece you've got, Margie, has come from the development phase. The geologists have told us that's where the ore body is. I still get excited.
Yeah.
The corrugations on the road here is shaking the number plate loose. We can hear something rattling. If I hadn't got out and have a look, we'd have lost it. The good old ML number plate. Better put it in the car.
It's a relief to stop at Rabbit Flat, the most remote roadhouse in Australia. It's halfway between Alice Springs and Halls Creek, in the middle of nowhere. Here we find the owners, Bruce Farrands, and his French-born wife, Jackie. Bruce is a true outback character. He tells me about Rabbit Flat.
Yeah, we started here in July '69. We had originally wanted to go and get a brigalow block in Queensland, but in the meantime, looking at aerial photographs one night, we picked up this waterhole here on a 1950 aerial photograph. We're strange people, we know that. We didn't care where it was, and as long as it's way to bugger you away from a town. You know, we're the exact opposite to most people. The reason it's called Rabbit Flat is because there's a well up here called Rabbit Flat Well, 4 mile up. Nobody knew where this waterhole was in Lands Branch in Alice, and when we were referring to the area that we wanted, we were saying in the Rabbit Flat Well vicinity.
Oh, right.
So when we got the 5-acre lease, we thought, well, bugger it, it's going to be a tourist venture. It's a hillbilly name. It was named by the old bushies. That'll suit us. So we stuck to Rabbit Flat.
Yeah.
you can't forget a name like Rabbit Flat.
Well, actually, I think everybody with a four-wheel drive have heard of Rabbit Flat.
Yeah, and of course the bloke who runs is a bloody nutter. So everybody wants to have a look at this bloody nutter. And that's got its pluses. It's got some negatives. But if I do or say something stupid, it's half expected.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he comes from Rabbit Flat and we know he's half bloody stupid, so you can get away with a fair bit.
He's sent me crazy in the past.
Oh, right. Talking.
Yeah, because I'll be waiting because I need an hand or something.
Yes.
But once he starts talking, you can't drag him away. He's incapable.
But I mean, you've been here that long now. Do you go out very often? Like, do you get out of the place?
Oh shit, I've got to be careful it's not habit forming, Mike. I've been to Alice 5 times. Well, see, if you go too many times, it does become habit forming.
Oh, really?
I prefer to keep in the background.
You can have a yarn to Bruce and stock up on some provisions in the security-conscious Rabbit Flat store, or buy some of the most expensive fuel in Australia. Most travel information tells us Rabbit Flat is closed every Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. But Bruce says he will open if travellers phone first and make arrangements.
If you physically can't do 600k without me, I'll help you out.
You can also get a hot shower or bush camp near the roadhouse. We are, and we're enjoying a great meal whilst watching some gorgeous painted finches and a Tanami desert sunset. It's July and the Tanami is looking good. Spiky spinifex is the predominant grass here, and it provides a refuge for lizards like this small colourful dragon. We've now crossed into Western Australia and the road's improved. It's a bit narrower, but there's not so many corrugations. It's safer to travel at a steady pace on outback roads. So if you see a big truck looming up behind, it's a good idea to pull up for a break, and it's often rewarding. We just stopped to have lunch under a shady tree like you tend to do when you're travelling, and notice a lot of little birds in the tree, which is quite amazing when you look at the country here. It's quite dry. We didn't expect to see so much bird life in the Tanami Desert. During the heat of the day, birds congregate in the leafy trees. There are zebra finches, rufous whistlers, and a pair of white-browed wood swallows in this small patch. Wolfe Creek meteorite crater is 20 kilometres off the Tanami Track, and it's well worth a short detour to visit this rare site. The surrounding countryside, viewed from the crater rim, reveals flat, endless plains of spinifex for as far as the eye can see. This is the Wolfe Creek meteorite crater. It's the second largest meteorite crater in the world. The largest one's over in Arizona in America. This one's 800 metres across and 50 metres deep. An amazing sight, particularly late in the afternoon like it is now. Scientists calculate that a huge meteorite weighing around 50,000 tonnes plunged to Earth at an incredible speed of 100,000 kilometres an hour, creating an impact explosion like a huge nuclear blast, leaving this giant hole in the desert about 300,000 years ago. The crater was originally 150 metres deep. Today it's about 50 metres deep, having been filled in by shifting desert sands. We stand in awe at this breathtaking feature of the East Kimberley, where something from outer space has landed. We're soon back to the corrugation, but not for long. The road improves and we're entering hilly country as we approach the end of the Tanami Track. Well, we've completed our run up the Tanami Track.
and this sign here is very good advice. We've come the way most people come. That's from the centre up to the northwest. We're going to show you some of the reasons why people go along and beyond the Tanami Track.
The present township of Halls Creek is on the Great Northern Highway with a population of 1,000. It's a service town for Aboriginal communities, pastoral properties and travellers. This Halls Creek was built in 1948 with material that was salvaged from the original Halls Creek 14 kilometres east. Not too much is left of old Halls Creek today. On Christmas Day 1885, Charlie Hall picked up a 28-ounce gold nugget, creating Western Australia's first gold rush. This is the fireplace in the old Halls Creek post office. They've actually built the building out of a mixture of spinifex and antbed material, all mixed up with water, and then put it together and it's set like concrete. They've embedded some slate in here and made a mantelpiece out of a piece of slate. Amazing. The post office with its 3 fireplaces is one of the few relics of the old Halls Creek boom days, where about 10,000 people came to seek their fortune. Caroline Pool is a permanent waterhole near the town and was a favourite recreation area and swimming spot for the gold miners, particularly in the scorching summer months. Today it's still a popular spot with locals and travellers alike. And much to our surprise, even in this remote spot, there are small fish in the waterhole. The Halls Creek area is rugged and rocky, providing the traveller with spectacular scenery. The burning hot rocks of the area are home to small lizards, like the central netted dragon, that is so well camouflaged it's usually only detected when it moves. These hardy lizards wait patiently in the sun to snap up an insect meal before scurrying off to the shade.
This natural quartz outcrop is just out from Halls Creek, and it runs for kilometres over the hills. It's called the China Wall.
This geological oddity looks as if it's been man-made, with huge blocks of quartz rock tightly fitted together to form a white wall that stretches over the hills for about 10 kilometres. It's hard to believe this amazing structure was made by nature. It's a must on any traveller's list. The traffic on the Great Northern Highway is a bit of a shock after the solitude of the Tanami Track. And when it comes to give way, bigger is best. Just watch out for the road trains. 109 kilometres north of Halls Creek, we turn off to the Bungle Bungles range, which is part of the Purnululu National Park. Spring Creek Track is the only road access to the park, and it's 4-wheel drive only. We've heard horror stories of the track condition. Just take it easy. The track traverses ridge after ridge of jagged rock formations and creeks, making it a slow but very scenic 50-kilometre drive from the highway. Once in the park, you can't miss the spectacular Bungle Bungles range, with its layer cake of rocks forming a beehive appearance. To see the Bungle Bungles up close, you have to walk. And there are a number of marked walks that follow the creek beds, which have a minimal impact on the delicate plant life of the area. The pink desert rose is in bloom, and so is the prickly grevillea. We're following the dry Piccaninny Creek on the southern side of the range. This walk is taking us deep into the range and will eventually lead us to a spectacular dead end at the Cathedral Gorge amphitheatre. There's no formed track, it's just a matter of following the easiest path along the dry creek bed. Carbon dating shows Aboriginal people lived here 20,000 years ago, and I bet they enjoyed the coolness of these deep shaded gorges and the fresh pools of water. The pools of water last through the dry season until the rains of the wet season turn the gorges into raging torrents of water, flushing and filling the waterholes once again. These large overhangs are excellent shelters, and the wind-sculpted honeycomb sandstone provides ideal nesting places for swallows. The gorge narrows down as we reach the amphitheatre. Not much sun ever reaches the bottom of this section of the gorge.
Well, we've reached the top of Cathedral Gorge, and there's a waterhole here. It's a little bit slimy at the moment, but on a hot day I suppose a lot of people go for a swim. This is sort of like an amphitheatre. You can hear the echoes around here. I'm not going to sing though.
Ever had that feeling of being watched? High above the gorge, a mysterious face appears to be eyeing us off. And on the way back, we're confronted with a ghostly grey shape amongst the colourful beehives. And there's a lion's head in the hills above us. Oh well, it is getting late in the afternoon. We have been walking in the heat of the day. The best way to see the immense area of the Bungle Bungle range is to take a helicopter flight over the domes. During the dry season when the park is open, you can take a joy flight from the park's airstrip. In fact, 4 times as many visitors just take a flight over the Purnululu National Park than those that make the effort to drive in here. From up here, the domes look like hundreds of coloured sandcastles. The round rock towers with their orange and black tiger stripe bands are delicate sandstone encased in the skin of silica and lichen. The dark grey bands are a form of blue-green algae, which grows on layers where moisture accumulates. The orange bands are oxidised iron compounds. The dry white sand and rock bed of Piccaninny Creek meanders through the labyrinth of beehive domes. It's much easier to follow from here than on the ground. That's Piccaninny Gorge, and we're approaching the centre of the range. In here is a circular structure that's hard to see even from the air. The elliptical shaped area is about 7 kilometres across. The theory for its origin is that it's the impact point of a giant meteorite that landed here around 200 million years ago. That would make it the largest known meteorite crater in the world, and much, much bigger than the Wolfe Creek crater. The Bungle Bungle range is 360 million years old and holds many secrets within its 45,000 hectares. Its remoteness has protected the ancient rocks, and today visitors must make some effort to experience the wonders of the Bungle Bungles. Because of its size, it's a lengthy drive over tracks and up creek beds to get to the northern end of the Bungle Bungle range.
Most people, when they think of the Bungle Bungles, think of the beehive formations, but there are lots of other spectacular spots to take a look at. Just look at this one.
This is the entrance to Echidna Chasm, a deep crack in the range that only gets sunlight for a short period in the middle of the day. The entrance is via a lush palm-filled grotto. These are Liverstonia palms, relics of a wetter climate. The walk takes a couple of hours and you need sturdy footwear. The chasm is a vertical crack 180 metres high and only a few metres wide. Most of the chasm is in deep shade, with reflected light from the orange rock walls above providing just enough light to film this amazing place. The further you go up Echidna Gorge, narrower it gets. So, let's go. This narrow slit penetrates about 1 kilometre into the Bungle Bungle range. Large chunks of grey conglomerate rock that have fallen from high above our heads make the last section of the chasm difficult to negotiate. Sunlight reflects an eerie orange light over everything in this section of the chasm. As we walk deeper into the range, we look up to see giant boulders jammed in the crack above us. The spectacular long chasm ends at a blank wall, but up above the dome-shaped roof glows with colour. It's a unique experience. When we emerge from the depths of the Bungle Bungles, the sun is setting, providing us with a kaleidoscope of dazzling colours to end our 2 days exploring this most amazing place. It's been suggested the Bungle Bungles could attract as many visitors in the future as Australia's most famous landmark, Uluru. And I can believe that. The Great Northern Highway leads us north to Kununurra and our next destination, Lake Argyle, the lifeblood of the Ord River irrigation scheme. This amazing body of water is Lake Argyle. It's man-made and it's so big it's considered to be an inland sea. The 68-metre high Ord River Dam was completed in 1972 to hold back the wet season waters of the Ord River. The huge body of water that was created was named Lake Argyle, after Argyle Downs, the pioneering Durack family cattle station that was flooded by the dam. Apart from supplying water for the irrigation farms downriver, the dam also provides water for hydroelectric power. The best way to experience Lake Argyle is to take a trip on a fast cruise boat. Because of the huge size of the lake, it's just about impossible for a traveller to find their own way around the myriads of islands and bays. The lake has created a home for about 25,000 freshwater crocodiles, and it's not long before we see one.
There he goes. Hey, hold still, Fred. Quite a fat one, that one.
Our guide, Scott Hewitt of Lake Argyle Cruises, knows all the best places to visit, such as this small rocky islet that is home to a lone male wallaroo. Scott has nicknamed him Kodak because he must be the most photographed roo in the East Kimberley. The wallaroo lives on 3 types of aquatic reeds and ribbon grass that wash ashore, and of course he also gets the occasional slice of bread. How he got on this isolated island is a mystery, but he seems healthy enough and he won't go short of a drink. Lake Argyle is fresh water. This remote, low, rocky island halfway down the lake is a unique attraction, but we have to look very carefully to find it. It could be on the dry area or in the water. And here it is, a piece of zebra rock. Dating back 1,200 million years, this unique riverine siltstone is only found in the East Kimberley region of Western Australia. Much sought after by rock collectors, it can be shaped into ornamental pieces such as these zebra rock bookends and this decorative fish.
There's 17 different species of fish in the lake. They're all edible and they're all native. There's been nothing introduced into Lake Argyle at all.
Now they've got a spinner.
The small archerfish spit water to shoot down insects, or in this case a small piece of bread.
The bigger ones down the bottom are the bottlenose catfish.
Oh!
There are 3 species of catfish in the lake, and the best eating is the shovel-nosed catfish, renamed silver cobbler to make it sound more attractive to consumers. This great tasting fish is the mainstay of the lake's commercial fishing industry. Scott quickly catches a bottlenose catfish by grabbing it in the mouth.
You hear that noise he's making? Yeah. That's an alarm signal. They do that underwater. You won't see catfish around here for about 3 or 4 days. They'll take off down in deep water. They know there's something wrong.
The southern end of Lake Argyle is home to thousands of birds, a wetland habitat of international significance that is frequented by almost 1/3 of Australia's bird species. Brolgas are a favourite with visitors. The big grey bird is Australia's only native crane. They seem so ungainly when they have to run to take off and fly. Another large and unique Australian bird is the jabiru, Australia's only member of the stork family. The jabiru is also known as a black-necked stork. They grow up to 1.2 metres in height and have a big appetite. Here we have a male and a female jabiru, and they're enjoying an easy feed of cut-up fish pieces. The younger bird with a distinctive yellow eye is the female. It's a privilege to see these birds in their natural surroundings. And now for a real treat. Scott guns the boat over a shallow section of reeds to enter a tranquil backwater at the southernmost end of the lake. Mirror images of the thick moss-covered trees reflect in the still dark waters of this hidden Everglades area. It's so peaceful just drifting along and so different to the open waters of the lake. fast run back up the lake to see the golden glow of the setting sun on the rocky islands is a fitting climax to our 120-kilometre boat journey. We disturb a large freshwater crocodile, catching the last warming rays of the sun. We've had 6 hours exploring the lake, and it's been a highlight of our journey, and such a contrast to the desert areas we've been through.
Another good way to look at the area is to take a float plane flight early in the morning.
Alligator Airways takes off from Lake Kununurra, and the early morning flight is reputed to be the best for filming. We're flying in a de Havilland Beaver float plane on an adventure flight over Lake Argyle. From the air we can see the neat looking irrigation areas around the town of Kununurra. Lake Argyle is nestled amongst the craggy masses of the Carr Ranges. The morning light is fantastic for filming, and I'm just letting the camera roll. It's so impressive. Southwest of the lake is the mist-shrouded rim of an ancient volcano. Diamonds are created in volcanoes. Below is the Argyle Diamond Mine, the world's biggest diamond mine. It produces over 35 million carats of diamonds per year. On the way back to Kununurra, we fly over the Everglades area we boated through. It looks so different from this angle. The islands we boated past yesterday also take on a different perspective. There are hundreds of islands in the lake, varying from small islets to large mountains projecting from the deep waters of Lake Argyle. The lake, when filled to maximum capacity, covers around 2,000 square kilometres, holding a volume of water equal to 54 Sydney harbours. We're flying down the Ord River below the Ord Dam. Before the dam was built, this picturesque river was only a series of small waterholes during the dry season. A constant flow of water from the lake has created permanent wetlands and great fishing spots for anglers at the Kununurra Diversion Dam, and further downstream at Ivanhoe Crossing. Ivanhoe Crossing was the original causeway into Kununurra from the west. Today it's a great barramundi fishing spot, but swimming is not recommended. Dangerous saltwater crocs inhabit these waters. The main reason Lake Argyle was created was to provide irrigation for farming. After a shaky start, the Ord River irrigation scheme is now a huge success, producing all sorts of produce worth around $63 million per year.
And here at Kununurra, you can taste the fruits of the Ord River scheme with these delicious melons that are grown right here with irrigated water. Rock melon, delicious. Golden honeydew, delicious also. Must be the climate up here, they're very, very sweet.
And melons account for half the value of the produce grown here. 50 kilometres from Kununurra, just east of the border into the Northern Territory, we find Keep River National Park. As we drive into the park, we pass the ever-present giant Boab trees. These bulbous trees only grow in the northwest, and are related to similar trees that grow on the African island of Madagascar. It's believed seeds were washed across the Indian Ocean to land on the Kimberley shores. When it's lost its leaves, the Boab can look like a menacing ogre. Explorers used them as landmarks, and Aboriginals ate the seeds and made flour from the pith inside the furry nuts. They also decorate the larger nuts and use them as rattles in corroborees.
All this fine carving has been done with the point of a penknife, and it takes hours and hours of meticulous work.
Boab trees are only a small part of the national park. Keep River has a number of excellent walks that take us through an ancient land of weathered sandstone outcrops and bluffs. The walks are marked and sometimes difficult to follow when the grasses are fully grown.
When you're walking through the Keep River National Park, make sure you carry some water with you, because it can get very hot, particularly in the middle of the day.
With today's temperature at 33 degrees Celsius in the shade, a break in a cool cave is most welcome. And the view's not bad either.
The rocks here that make up the fascinating landscape of Keep River National Park are 250 million years old and has been described as a lost world. A huge bluff of Kelly's Knob sandstone towers over us as we walk deeper into the park. Now that definitely looks like a lost world to me. Striking landforms and ancient Livistonia palms are all around us. Some of the tracks are a bit of a scramble, but it's worth it. It is like walking through a lost world. You almost expect to see dinosaurs around the corner. Strange weathered rock formations give the place an eerie atmosphere, broken by the bright pink turkey bush that grows in cracks in the ancient sandstone. These prehistoric valleys of a forgotten world were originally shaped by volcanic and glacial activity, followed by eons of weathering to create a scenic delight that is rarely visited. These beautiful rainbow bee-eaters seem to fit into the landscape that time has forgotten. It seems fitting to know that Aboriginal people have inhabited this amazing place for the past 25,000 years, and there's plenty of evidence to prove it. The traditional custodians of the area today are the Mirriwung Aboriginal people, and they have allowed art sites like this one to be open to visitors as long as no one touches the artworks. Inside this cave here there are many paintings, but the special ones are on the ceiling there. They're called Ganji Nanam. They're big figures painted in red ochre, and it's about 3.5 metres from the floor to the ceiling, so it's believed they must have used some sort of scaffolding to actually paint them. These two figures represent the first two Mirriwung Men, the giant Ganji Nanam. On the opposite side of the natural archway is Garrimalam, the rainbow snake, an important creation figure from the Dreaming. Art over art shows just how old this site is, with later artists painting over the original works to create a mosaic of art through the ages. The lost world of Keep River is really a world from the dream time. What a fascinating place to end our journey along and beyond the Tanami Track. It's taken 14 days, we've travelled 2,290 kilometres and used 459 litres of diesel. We've travelled through an ancient land and marvelled at some of its natural wonders as well as its man-made wonders. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. It's been a fascinating journey. So don't forget to join us next time we travel all over the countryside.